Hello again, everyone. Let's go ahead and get started. As we have more people joining us, they'll just log in and join the conversation, but we want to be respectful of everybody's time. My name is Beth Simos. I am the Vice President of Marketing at Wayforth, and we'd like to welcome you to our summer webinar series. The topic today is the power of perspective. We're very excited about this presentation and our wonderful presenter today. Before we turn it over to the presentation, let's take care of a little bit of housekeeping for those of you who may not have used this webinar platform. There on the screen, we're sharing just a couple of tips and tricks for the webinar. We have muted the presentation for everyone's benefit. We just found that that ensures everyone can hear clearly and there are no unplanned disruptions during the presentation. This means we won't be able to hear you if you talk. So if you have any questions during or after the presentation, please use the chat pane in the Teams webinar function. And our marketing team will be monitoring the chat and collecting all of your questions, and we'll address those at the end of the presentation. Keep in mind that if you have a question, it's likely several other members of the group have the same question. So you're doing everyone a favor if you ask the question in the chat pane. This also goes for any technical help. If you run into any challenges, just put that in the chat as well, and we will address that as soon as possible. At the end of the presentation, we'll share our contact information. If you have any questions after the webinar is over, please do not hesitate to reach out to us, as we always love talking one-on-one with our attendees. So let's practice using the chat function, and can everyone just write in the chat where you're joining us from today, city, state, just to give us a sense of where you are. Asheville, North Carolina, Richmond, Virginia, Philly. Welcome, Philly. So we have people from all up and down the East Coast. I see a couple maybe from Maryland. So welcome, welcome. Everyone is using the chat function just as you should. And again, at any time, just put in any questions or thoughts in the chat function. Now, just a couple of words about who we are and who Wayforth is. If you have not attended one of our webinar presentations before, we are a provider of comprehensive and personalized move management and moving solutions for life and business. We are one of the nation's largest home transition management company, and we provide solutions through every phase of a move. And we know that how you move matters. And no matter the destination, we are here to serve as a guide, making that transition easier to navigate. Currently, we have services from Maine to Florida, and we can coordinate moves across the country. Our fantastic leadership team has over 80 years of combined move management and moving solutions industry experience. We are COVID-19 certified and have implemented some of the most comprehensive health and safety protocols in the industry. We are changing the way people move, and we hope to be able to help you with your next move so you can experience the Wayforth difference, a complete move solution. We do, as I mentioned, offer services across the board, complete personalized concierge level support. We do everything from space planning to downsizing, moving to resettling, plus home sale management and content management. If you have any questions about any of these services or other things that you hear in the presentation, again, we will put our contact information in the chat and at the end of the presentation. So just a little bit about our speaker, and then I will turn it over to her. Patti Nanney is our Regional Vice President of our Southeast and Texas regions. A very focused career team builder and eternal optimist. Her positive and customer focused approach inspires confidence and trust with her clients and teammates. So, without further ado, I will turn it over to Patti.
Thank you so much, Beth. I love seeing all the different places that our guests are from. The first one that posted, Asheville, North Carolina, hometown of two of my sisters. That is one of my favorite places and destinations to visit in the world. So welcome everyone, and thank you guys for being with us. So I've been invited to talk about perspective. What is perspective? The power of perspective. How do we reframe it? And really just kind of dive into it. I feel like I'm a subject matter expert in this in a way because I feel like that's one of the things that I have been able to do well in my life and have been so much happier because of it, is to be able to reframe, reground, and move forward in a positive manner. But let's talk about it from the very beginning. What is perspective? Merriam-Webster actually defines perspective as the interrelation in which a subject or its parts are mentally viewed. And another part of that definition is the appearance to the eye of objects in respect to their relative distance and positions. So by very definition, perspective is relative and changeable. It's the way individuals see the world. It comes from all of our personal points of view, and it's shaped by all of our life experiences, values, our current state of mind, as well as any assumptions that you bring to the table, and a whole bunch of other factors that we'll talk about a little bit. But that's the definition of perspective. Perspective is not right or wrong. It is it's like a belly button. We all have one, and it doesn't make it right or wrong, but it's changeable. It is what it is. It's a point of view of a single person based on their life experiences and values. That being said, your perspective can have a powerful impact, either positively or negatively. How many times have you felt a strong shift in your perspective? You're going along and you're having a great day, and the next thing you know, your doctor's office calls with some unexpected news. That might shift. Your day hasn't changed, but you know what? Your perspective on your day can shift in a completely different way. How many times have you been struggling with things and having a bad day and feeling like life is just a little overwhelming or maybe not going the way that you wanted it to, and you get a phone call and it's your daughter. They're finally pregnant. It's amazing. Your day didn't change. The news that you got changed. Your perspective on the outlook of life and the outlook of the day. So it's not right or wrong, but it can be very changeable. With perspectives to self, it colors how we see ourselves, the world, how we respond to life events, how we react to others. Just like I said, with those two examples of, something outside in affecting how we see what's going on in our lives in that moment, it reframes it. It can reframe it positively or negatively. But the ability to reframe your own perspective is an important skill, and it can transform not only your life in general, like how you perceive how you're going to march forward in life, but the very moment that you're in right now. You can create your own little square blue sky. Life is full of ups and downs. No one's immune to that. Here at Way Forth, we're in the business of life transition, death and divorce. Death and divorce is together, marriage, and then moving are the top three stressors in our lives and all of our lives. Here at Way Forth, we not only see clients going through it every day in stressful situations with shifting perspectives. Sometimes it feels like life is overwhelming. Sometimes it feels like they're on top of it, but it's constantly shifting. Not only with our clients, but with us as well. We see it on an everyday basis. We work in an environment that is, pretty stressful and ever changing, and we have to make sure that we stay grounded and that we're able to reframe our own perspectives as professionals every day. Those ups and downs and those stressors, how you view them is the key to resilience. That is the power of perspective and keeping control of your own perspective. When uncertainty, unwanted things happen, no matter what those drivers are, may make us feel anxious, overwhelmed, sad, angry, depressed. These strong feelings can lead to shifts in our perspective that are pretty negative, and not just a momentary mood, but a shift in perspective that can be negative. So I don't like reading slides, but I'm gonna read this one because I absolutely love it, because it really illustrates the power that your own perspective has on the entirety of your life. The fable is that an old man was sitting on a bench midway between two villages. He sees a man approaching, walking from one village to another, and he asks the man, "How are people in your village?" And the man replies, "They are kind and welcoming." And the old man replies, "You will find people in the next village to be the same." And the old man continues sitting, and he sees another man approaching from the same direction, coming from that same village, heading in the same direction as the other one. And he asks the man the same question, "How are the people in your village?" And this man replies, "They are mean and dishonest." And the old man replies, "You will find the same people, the people to be the same in the next village." So in your perspective of positive or negative, you'll find exactly what you expect to find. If we can be aware of our perspective and the power that it has on our outlook in any given situation, we can have an incredible impact on our own happiness. Kaleidoscopes remind us that there's always another way to see the world. Even a small rotation shifts the image. What you're seeing on the screen right now, just a little hint this or way. I mean, when's the last time any of us had a kaleidoscope in our hands? I remember these and I love them. And actually thinking about this made me decide to go out and buy some for my grandkids, because I don't think they even have kaleidoscopes in their world today. They may see them on their screens, but I want them to see it in real life, because the reality is that it is just a small change shifts the complete image. So in our day, what are those small changes that can happen? A sunny day makes you feel, you walk out, a sunny day makes you feel happy. You're driving to your favorite park, an aggressive driver can make you, feel like the whole world's a threat and, make things scary. I'm actually located here in Dallas right now, and let me tell you, an aggressive driver on a tollway and in the middle of drive time traffic, it can really shift how you're looking at the other drivers. It shifts your perception. All of these factors can move us in either direction. My daughter loves to send me little videos of babies laughing, because babies laughing make me happy, and it has a tendency to lift my mood. And when I lift my mood, I lift my head and I look at my perspective of what's going on in that day, and that helps change. So even if you can have a small shift from the outside, you know what? We can have a small shift from the inside as well, right? That's what we're here to talk about today. So when we talk about shifts, it takes us off center, right? For positive, you don't want to be too positive because you're not looking at things realistically. You don't want to be negative because it makes you unhappy and doesn't let you see the possibilities. So the way to really try and balance things is to reframe your perspective. It can really be difficult to keep these things in perspective in your own personal life. It's so easy to get caught up in daily situations where we all have them, right? A lot of people that we work with every single day, they're moving, they're, leaving their family home, and, going into a new situation. And what I found is that even if, people are choosing to move, they're moving into a senior living community that has all these beautiful amenities. that change is hard, and it can be very easy to get caught up in that, and get things out of perspective, and things start to be negative and be overwhelming. And it's not helped by the fact that even when you're trying to keep your day-to-day on life, we have very real stressors, right? The outside news of the world, finances, deadlines you need to meet, whether, you're retired and you're meeting a deadline of, having your house packed up, or getting your plane ticket purchased to be able to go visit the grandkids for Labor Day, whatever it is. There are so many moving parts in our life, that can push us off of that center. If you look at that frame right there, we want to stay centered. We want to have a balance of the world, the horizon, the sun, and the shadow. We need to keep it in perspective. So how do we reframe that perspective? So we decided to take a look and dig in and talk about the top 5 tips. Top 5 tips of what is going well. You know what? This is a gift that you can give yourself at any point in the day. When something's not going well, however small that it may be, you can end up being totally distracted by it. Your project is going great, and you've got this one piece that you can't seem to get right. For myself, I have, projects that have, very complex spreadsheets to do. And, I may end up not being able to, what happened recently is I couldn't log into one of my programs that I needed. And the next thing you know, you go down a rabbit hole, right? You go down a rabbit hole of, this isn't going well. I can't get logged in. You get, uh, totally bogged down in that. But you can give yourself the gift of standing back from the situation and consider what's going well. Consider what you've achieved and how much you've progressed. It'll make that situation seem much less significant. Let's talk through some examples of how that works in a real life. Remind yourself of what's going well. There is a positive way to look at this no matter what you're doing. You're on a diet. Your goal is to lose 20 pounds. You know what? You feel like you haven't lost any weight. What happens? Your perspective might be, I am never going to lose that 20 pounds. That's never going to happen. But if you remind yourself, even if you haven't lost a pound, you know what? You're eating better. You know what? I already feel better. So that's a win. Count your wins. Look at your progress. If you're moving and you're struggling to downsize, you don't know where to start. You've got, 10 rooms and you've only made it through one room and it took you a month to do that. Your perspective might be, I will never get through this in time for my move, no matter how far that move is out. I promise you, we do this every day. No matter how far it is out, it comes quickly, right? And you may get overwhelmed and you may say, I'll never get this done in time. Look at what you have done. You got 10 rooms to do. You only got one done. You know what? You step back and look and say, that's a job well done. That one room is done. And I know that I'm going to get to the rest of them, but remind yourself of what's going well, take pride in what you've done, and give yourself a gold star. It'll help your perspective. Tip number 2, consider the best and the worst that could happen. I know you guys have heard these tips before in general. This is how, to stay balanced in life, but in particular with your perspective, this is a very powerful tool. When you're getting things out of proportion, because that's what happens, right? When your perspective goes off, you start panicking, it feels all overwhelming, it feels negative, and you think about the worst case scenario. Think about that worst case scenario. Go on down that trip. Think about the worst case scenario and what could happen. And then also consider the best case outcome so you can take action to achieve it. That's where we're always going, right? That's where we want to be, as the best case. But as we're on that journey, when you look at best case and worst case, the worst case isn't usually that bad. It's usually something that you've worked through before, a situation that you've been in before, something that you've come out of. As long as we're here to be talking about it, we're winning. we are absolutely winning. So think about that best case to drive towards, and that worst case, it's probably not that bad. Let's go back to the diet and moving as examples. So your diet, you lose all the weight, best case. Yay, I got new clothes, my cholesterol's down, my doctor's not going to yell at me. You've got all kinds of, great things for the best case. Worst case, you don't lose a pound. You don't lose a pound. And you know what? You're still here. You're still you. There's always tomorrow. And you've been there before, right? You've been there before. And it's going to be fine. If that's the worst case, you tried to lose 20 pounds and you didn't lose 20 pounds, it really is okay. It feels, if you let your perspective get out of control in the moment, you can feel like a failure, you can feel overwhelmed, but in the end, remind yourself of those and try and keep it in balance. And moving, and this is a very real situation, right? I see it every single day. You have plans, you're going to get all this organized and downsized before Wayforth is here. You're like, no, I can do it myself. Wayforth is here. The day starts to come loom close that it's time to pack and get moved, right? So, oh, I love that. Maybe you didn't gain anything. That's even better. There's always a win. As long as you're breathing and you're here to talk about it, that's a win. And you've been there before, right? Thank you for that comment. That just popped up on my screen for some reason. So let's talk about moving and downsizing, because that's a big project that a lot of people want to tackle. You've downsized all your house, best case scenario, yay, you're ready to move, you save some money, you're all organized and everything's done. Quite often, the reality is in the middle, right? But what's the worst case scenario? You know what? I got overwhelmed every single time I walked in that room and I couldn't do a thing. I couldn't make myself do it. I couldn't make myself make the choices. I felt like once I started, I wouldn't know what to do. You know what? I cannot tell you the number of times that we have walked into a home that that client and the family has said, you know what, we'll take care of that ourselves. And we walk in and there's panic and there's like, I wasn't able to get anything done. And you know what? It might not even be because of a choice that you made. Maybe, I mean, we've had health situations that, you know what, between the plan and here, this happened with my health. Between here and here, my grandkid was unexpectedly born and I've been out of town, trying to take care of my there's so many things that could happen. So in this situation, best case, you're all organized. Worst case, nothing's done. You know what? That's why there are professionals. In this particular scenario, you call a professional in to help, or you change the date of your move. There's always an alternative. There's always an alternative. The worst case scenario, you know what? We're going to make it through that. There are choices, there are options. So it really does help not only to look at best, but look at worst and keep it real as well. Whenever my husband sees me take a panic call, from a friend or a family member, never a client, a friend or a family member, he always says in the background, just breathe, because that's exactly the first thing that I'm going to tell a friend or a family that's losing perspective and that's getting panicky. Keep calm and think rationally. When things aren't going well, it is so easy to panic. And of course, that makes everything worse. Take some long, deep breaths, calm yourself down, relax. That'll enable you to get things into perspective and decide what to do next. I'd like to say very practically that there are many apps out there now, free apps that will help you breathe and be calm. You don't have to go even to the full meditation and all of those other things, but those apps really help. Those apps really help. Breathe, get your breathing under control. It helps you be calm. Pick your head up, lower your shoulders, breathe, walk away from the situation if you need to. Stand outside in the sunshine, just go out the back door, go sit in your car if you need. If you cannot, your house is chaos, there's people all around and you're starting to panic, go outside and sit in your car. Breathe so you can think rationally. Do you know what happens when we do get panicky like this and things are not going well and we start getting overwhelmed, our thoughts accelerate, right? I know you felt that situation. Think about a time you felt, and then start breathing. Think about a time that you felt that way. Your thoughts accelerate, and you know what? They're not the good thoughts. They're not the happy thoughts. They're not the, oh my gosh, we can do this. Those aren't those thoughts. When you get in a situation that you get overwhelmed and your perspective is kind of spiraling or sliding to the negative, those negative thoughts accelerate. And that's what you have to stop. By taking a moment, stepping away, and breathing, it will help you think more rationally. And rational thought is what's going to help you get through this situation. Tip number 4, discuss with others and get their support. I am a verbalizer. Y'all say in the chat if you're a verbalizer or not. I'm a verbalizer. I like to talk through things. And, dealing with something that's out of perspective is really difficult on your own. If it's really important and it's knocked you off of your center, then a lot of times it's hard to get yourself back on your center. Even if you do, tips 1 through 3, sometimes it's hard to reframe your perspective yourself. This is when you speak to a trusted advisor, a family member, a friend. They help you see things from a different perspective, even if they don't have a solution, even if they don't have, an answer, advice, even if it's just a listening ear. Verbalizing that, I'm a verbalizer. If you're not a verbalizer, you might want to try it, even especially when things get out of perspective like this, talking things through, even if nothing changes in the actual situation, it can definitely help clear your perspective. Tip number 5, don't see things as insurmountable, be positive. Just like we talked about in, with the moving situation, nothing's insurmountable. You know what, moving day's here and you haven't packed a thing, you're not ready. We have options. We always have options. You may feel like your current situation is insurmountable. You know what? Something like that's happened in the past. Your back has been against the wall. You have faced a health crisis. You faced a financial crisis. You faced a family crisis. No matter what those things are, when you look at it, it's not nothing is insurmountable. You have to feel that in your soul. Nothing is insurmountable. When you live to fight another day, that's a win. And you know what? No matter what, we're going to walk away from this situation and be able to conquer it in another way, another day. It's always helpful to have a positive attitude. This will make it so much easier to keep things in perspective. And a positive attitude is led by a positive perspective, a grounded perspective. So all of these things, tips 1 through 5, help you be positive when you actually act on them. The Mayo Clinic says, I'm going to read these statistics. So with a positive perspective, the Mayo Clinic, and they're the real deal, the Mayo Clinic says you will have an increased lifespan, lower rates of depression, lower levels of distress and pain, greater resistance to illness, better psychological and physical well-being, and better cardiovascular health and reduced risk of death from heart attack or stroke. Those are the benefits. Those are the absolute benefits of keeping your life, keeping your perspective grounded and positive. When it goes off the dime, reframing it. And all of those health benefits aside, the bottom line is you're just happier. It just leads to a more, happy, grounded, calmer life in which you can take on all of the challenges that, you may face in life and be able to overcome them. Pete started out Pete Schrock, our co-founder and chief people officer, has a wonderful saying. This was in his webinar, and it's what he says on the regular. It's what we absolutely reinforce in our company. And this is a great life tip Focus on what you can control, what you can do, what you have, being present, and what you need. Those are the important things to focus on. And that will help keep your perspective when you focus on those things and don't focus on all of the other periphery things. That a shift in perspective will help you have a laser lens on something that's not that important, right? Negative changes impact that. It impacts your perspective, and your job is to reframe, pull it up, focus, have a clear. I love this image because it's the absolute same on the other side of that glass, right? On the left-hand side, that's clouded. You know what? By just clearing our minds, reframing our perspective, we're able to see a completely different picture. And that's a lot happier and more positive picture. So just remember, you have the power to reframe your perspective. It's all about you. You have the power in your hands. Thank you so much. Do you have any questions? Is there anything from the group?
Thank
Patti.
you.
Oh, I'm sorry. We did have a couple questions come in via email, Patti. So I'm gonna read those off to you so you can address them. The first one is, I have mixed feelings about my upcoming move into a senior living community. I'm excited to meet new people, but sad about leaving behind the home I raised my family in. Is it normal to mourn the past?
Oh my goodness, yes. That is a question that we get very regularly from our clients. And this actually relates to perspective, because those feelings will drive, okay, on one day I'm super happy. My perspective is that life is full and abundant and amazing, and I have all of these wonderful things in front of me. And then the other side, when you get sad and you feel that sense of loss, your perspective is that, look at all these things I'm losing and leaving behind. And, it really does make you sad. And so you're in the same situation. You're going from one home to the same exact place with the same exact process, and your perspective has a profound effect on that. So what I would say to you is, absolutely, it's normal to mourn. You're changing your life. And I think that's one of the things that surprised me most about this is, even people who are choosing to sell their home and have this different lifestyle, and it's just because that's what they want to do, and they look at all of these wonderful things, you're leaving something behind, right? It's like, being married, you're going to change your life, but this part is going to change and go away. And I say, look it straight in the face and call it what it is. It is loss. It is loss. And but take that to the next level. So then what are you doing with your things? You're selling your home that you've had your family holidays in. Think of the family that you're selling your home to that's going to create more holiday families. There's not enough room. You're going to a senior living. There's not enough room for the China hutch there. Well, you know what? Your granddaughter wants that China hutch. She may not want the China, let's be real, because China's not, your kids don't want it. I'll just be real with you. Your kids don't want it. But that beautiful hutch that's been in the family, it's going to stay in your family. It may not be in your living room, but it's going to be in somebody else's living room. I have a lady that we moved recently, that she found fulfillment of, because she had, the bigger family home and the 2 dining rooms and the 2 living rooms, and she had to downsize a lot. And these were pieces that maybe weren't incredibly valuable, or that, that went to auction or whatever. But you know what she decided to do with those? She donated them to refugee families, to an organization. And so she actually said goodbye. I'm getting teary. She actually said goodbye to every single piece of furniture, and blessed it and released it, because she knew it was going to the refugee families who needed that, and there would be, continued good use out of it. So look it in the eye, call it what it is, and then decide to do something positive with that.
Oh, that's great advice, Patti. Awesome. Another question, how can I encourage my mom to have a better perspective about her moving into a senior living community?
This is good because it's a healthy reminder that it's about her perspective, right? You want her to change her perspective, but by doing that, you have to understand what her perspective is, what's important to her. Because just like the question of being happy or mourning a loss, it's exactly that way when your mom is moving into senior living and she may not be feeling the greatest about it. Acknowledge it, call it what it is. Talk about what she's afraid of. Talk about the things, because I guarantee you the things that she's looking at negatively are things that she's afraid of. So pull it out and talk about it. Help her see the positives, even in the things that she's afraid of, and then find what's important to her about the positive things about the senior living community and focus on that. And I would have to say, just a little reminder, focus on what's important to her. Because the things that are important to us, it's like, ooh, this looks so glamorous and it's so contemporary and there's a chandelier hanging and, everything's so clean. I wouldn't mind living here myself. Do you know what your mom might see? Something clean and cold and contemporary. She might want something that's warmer or, might want to focus on. So if she's going into a community like that, focus on the people, focus on the clubs, focus on the activities, whatever it is that's important to her. Focus on the positives of that, but definitely acknowledge the fact that she may be fearful of the unknown going into a new community.
Great. And last question for you, Patti. I need to downsize, but it's an intimidating task. Where do you recommend I start?
Why do you think I use downsizing as far as power of perspective? Because it is intimidating. It's huge. And you know what? It's not just, it's a whole combination. The bigger your house, the more stuff you have to make decisions on. The longer you've had it, the harder it is to decide what to do with it. Um, I've actually seen I was in Florida before I came out to Texas, and in Florida, they'd already done that first big downsizing, right? So you left the big house in New Jersey and, you whittled it on down and you're in a condo in Florida, but now you're going to a senior living community that you're going to have to let go of this stuff. That, by the way, this is the most important stuff to you. You've held on to it. I would say start in an unemotional place and start small. That's what you do. Pick a kitchen drawer, pick a closet that's not too big that you don't go in. Piece by piece, we actually have some great downsizing tips on our website. So definitely look for those tips. We've got some blogs on it as well, because this is really a hard part. For one, be kind to yourself. It is hard. It is overwhelming. So start small and start unemotional. You don't want to go into, your favorite Hummel collection and say, I can only take 5 Hummels. What am I going to do with the other, 15? Don't start there. Start in your junk drawer. Start in your junk drawer and you'll find you're making progress.
Awesome. Thank you, Patti. That was the last question we had come through today.
Oh, excellent. Well, thank you guys so much for having me. I hope it resonated somewhere out there, that someone is going to reframe and, have a more positive perspective from having joined us. So thank you so much for letting me speak today.
Yep. Thank you, Patti. It was a wonderful presentation, a lot of good questions and answers. This is the final webinar in our summer series, but I do want to mention that we have our fall series starting up. So please be on the lookout for communications in email and online about that fall series and how to register and what the topics are. Again, we are recording all of these webinars. They are on our YouTube channel. So if you would like to go watch those, feel free to see all of the webinars in the series. And in addition, everyone will receive an email later this afternoon with access to our digital goodie bag for attending today. And that will also include a link to view Patti's presentation again. So if you would like to revisit any of the discussion. It will be at your fingertips to view it on your computer at your leisure. Again, thank you for reaching out and sharing questions. And a thank you again for joining us. We really appreciate your participation and your enthusiasm for this topic. Again, feel free to reach out to us at any time. As I mentioned earlier, we always love answering questions and offering tips and information on how to make these transitions. So thanks again to Patti for her wonderful presentation, and thank you to everyone for joining us today. Have a wonderful rest of your afternoon.
Thanks, everyone. Have a blessed day.